We're here for the meeting of the Podiatric Medical Examiners Advisory Board. We'll start with a roll call.
Dr. Motley?
Here.
Dr. Campbell?
Here.
Dr. Lunsford?
Here.
Dr. Parkinson?
Here.
Dr. Martin?
Here.
Dr. Peach?
Okay. We knew Dr. Peach wouldn't be able to make it, but we do have a quorum. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting in January 29? If so, I'll take a motion to approve those.
Move. Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving forward, that was agenda item C. Agenda item D is public comment. No one's registered for public comment? My day just got a little better. Agenda item E, staff reports. We'll start with licensing and statistics.
Good morning, board members. My name is Laura Hernandez. I'm the licensing manager for the tools team that handles getting the licenses issued for the podiatry program. I submitted our staff report for the first 2 quarters that shows you how many licenses, new licenses, renewed licenses, and how many were done online, and then the population for the first and second quarters. Our team is currently working on renewals, the upcoming renewals, and getting everything prepared so those go out in a timely manner in September, the end of August. And if you have any additional questions for me, please let me know.
Well, my only question, there will be a similar reminder card that gets out. Fantastic.
Yes.
Everybody gets busy and everybody forgets.
Right.
Okay. Fantastic. Any questions regarding licensing? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Customer Service Division.
Good morning, board members. My name is Tuan Nguyen. I'm the customer service manager for this program. So since last time we met in January, we had roughly the same amount of phone calls, but we did double in emails ever since March, April, and May. A lot of those emails consisted of questions about initial applications, additional documents that people were sending in for their applications. But other than that, that was the bulk of it. Was there any other questions you will have for us?
Any questions at all?
Quick question. When you say customer service contacts, is that from podiatrists, the public combined?
Most of it's from the podiatry board member, actual podiatrists or RATEX. Every now and then we'll get people from the public asking about verification for, oh, I just want to check this podiatry license number, and we'll guide them to the license search site.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
E3 is Enforcement Division. And I'll tell you right off the bat, we'll lump it with H, since there's 2 topics on the agenda as well. It's whichever works easiest for y'all, just so you.
It's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm Virginia Fields, prosecutor with the Enforcement Division. I was here today to present the key statistics. Our enforcement prosecutor, Ken Sharp, can come on up if he wants, and we'll go ahead and take care of item H. It's listed under both items for the criminal history guidelines, if you'd like to do that. Shortly, if I can, I'd also like to introduce Karen Cox, another prosecutor that'll be working on our program. My report today consists of the division's key statistics, which are for fiscal year 2018. That's from September 1 of 2017 through May 31st of 2018. The report reflects there were 118 cases opened and 38 cases resolved. Those were resolved by either insufficient evidence, warning, or a license evaluation approved or license issued. The division's been working, as you well know, on the work groups for the criminal guidelines, and as well we have an upcoming work group scheduled for the penalty matrix, and currently working on a draft for that. So that will help the upcoming work groups to focus and start a foundation on development of the enforcement penalty matrix, which is primarily for substantive violations. That concludes my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions on the key statistics.
Great. Any questions at all? Great.
Thank you, Dr.
you
Monk.
very much. Next one, Education and Examination Division.
Good morning. I'm Fanny Pringle with Education Examination Division. For the third quarter, our exam pass rate did dip from the 100% rate that we had previously. It's now 92.3%. We had a couple people who had to retake the exam, but for June and July, our statistics are back up, and so far we're doing it 100% again. Are there any questions?
Anything from the board?
If somebody fails it, how long between till they retake it?
They can retake immediately. They just need to contact PSI and reschedule, pay their fee. It's usually the quickest. I think it's possible to do it 24 hours, but depending on what time of day they took their exam and their scores are processed, it may be up to 48 hours.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That still has been one of the best things we've seen, is the ability just to do that remotely and not drive to Austin and incur the
Yeah,
cost and all those things.
we've
That's
had
really
some good
fantastic.
feedback.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
The Regulatory Program Management Division.
Good morning. My name is Heather Muir, and I am currently a compliance specialist with the Regulatory Program Management, Medical and Health Professions section, under which podiatry falls. We have a few personnel updates. Hemet was not on my list. However, as you know, Hemet Macon has left the department and went to the pharmacy board, so we're looking forward to continuing our work with him with the prescription monitoring program efforts. Stephen Mills, who is the current section manager, will be retiring August 31st, and I have been selected as his replacement, so I will begin my new role on September 1st. So what that means is we currently have 2 vacant positions. That is also not on your list. We are actively filling those positions, hopefully 2 people by August 31st, or just start September 1st. That's my goal. We are continuing to work on, there's about 19 tasks that we have left to implement from sunset legislation and some other bills that impacted this program. There will be a team of TDLR staff from every section, every division on that team represented, so that we can fully implement the program here with TDLR and get those recommendations cleared out. We also are working on some web content initiatives, all of our programs, to make them easier to read and follow and find information that you're looking for. So one of the top things that people typically look for on a web page, based on our hits and stuff that we've been tracking, statistical data, is that they want to know, how do I apply for and renew my license? So those are going to be the top. And then they will have more headings to select from, so that it's going to be a little bit less information on each of those headings. So it's not going to be a huge volume of information for them to read through and find what they're looking for. Hopefully it will be a lot easier for them to find the information that they're needing to find quickly. Public outreach, we attended the TPMA annual conference in Galveston in June. We gave 2 presentations there. Christina Kaiser, who's the director of our enforcement unit, gave a presentation on the enforcement process. And Colleen Tran and I gave an update on the prescription monitoring program. And Dr. Lunsford was gracious enough to sit in on that panel and help us. We were very thankful and grateful. We have been invited to the Southwest Foot and Ankle Conference in October in Frisco, and we will be attending that as well, and we will give a prescription monitoring program update at that meeting as well. I will attend the first interagency prescription monitoring program for me work group meeting July 31st. That will be something new for me. I'm excited. That was the role that Hemet was previously filling. We continue as a section, medical and health profession section, to provide training and guidance to customer service and licensing to help them better perform their job duties whenever it comes to questions as far as the programs, processing applications, inquiries that come in to help them answer them quicker. And we also provide handouts that they can go back to and reference material to make it easier for them to find what they're looking for. And we've also completed 3 issues of the TDLR Health Monitor newsletter, and we're currently starting to draft the 4th one. And that will come out sometime in the fall. Any questions?
Anything? The newsletters I find to be, it's like an easy way to plug in, so it is something great. I think a lot of people look to answer quick questions or for a quick reference. It's fantastic.
If you ever have anything that you think we should cover in that newsletter, please feel free to contact me and let me know.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Executive office.
Good morning, board members. Mary Winston. I'm the attorney in the Office of Strategic Communication, and I'll be delivering the executive office report today. With vacation and other duties that caused our executive office to be double, triple booked, you all got stuck with me. So I want to first introduce a new face, Dr. Gary Wesson. He's one of our newest TDLR commissioners, and I told him earlier that when he wears this shirt, it makes me happy. So it just gives me a warm fuzzy. Dr. Wesson, recently appointed by the governor. He's a retired orthodontist from the Bastrop area. I will offer him a chance to say something.
I kind of went over and introduced myself.
Well, you know what,
Okay.
that's how great he is. Before this meeting even started, he kind of got to know everybody, and that's wonderful. So our commissioners, aside from their duties of the commission meetings and other things and responsibilities, we pair them with, of course, they have to say okay because they're the boss, with different advisory boards. And Dr. Wesson has been paired and has graciously agreed to attend these meetings and just kind of keep in touch more directly with the advisory board. So it's all with open and free communication, a one-on-one touch versus just watching a board meeting. And as you can tell, he's very approachable. And so welcome and thank you for being here. And thank you for wearing my happy shirt. So for the report, we start off with the strategic plan. And actually, before I start with that, I want to say happy almost 1 year anniversary. We have been together for a very short time period in the history of your profession. So we're babies, but as comes with youth, so comes energy. So we have a lot to learn. We know we have a lot to learn. We're going to make missteps. We're going to do our best, correct it, and move forward, and that's what we're going to do. So we are very proud to have you as part of the TDLR family, and we look forward to continuing the relationship with this board because you guys are really a conduit for the profession that you represent. We're not podiatrists, we're not in the field, you are, so that is a great communication that we want to work towards and maintain with the podiatry community. Strategic plan. We are tasked with developing a strategic plan that incorporates agency strategies and goals, and each strategic plan covers a 4-year span. To arrive at these objectives, TDLR offered online surveys, we solicited comments through GovDelivery, and we hit the road. Several of our staffers traveled to El Paso, Arlington, Houston, McAllen, and also here in Austin to personally get input from licensees, stakeholders, and interested parties. In your materials, there is a link to the agency's strategic plan, and it is also available on our website. It covers general overall goals for the agency and specific goals and objectives and initiatives for certain programs within the agency. We know that you all are very busy. We appreciate you attending the meetings, volunteering your service, and if you haven't had a chance to read it, we request that you please read it at your earliest convenience, at your earliest availability, and if you want any more input or information, feel free to contact us, and we will have a discussion, put something else on the agenda, or just flesh it out even more. We were limited to, I think, 32 pages, so we have over 800,000 licensees. That's in 39 different professions. It's a lot to condense, but what we tried to do was, I can't remember the software that we use. Typically when we go out on the road and solicit comments, we literally have scribes taking down what everyone says. This time we used an online service. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it, but they were able to text or use a computer internally, outside, in their own words. So there was no middleman to filter responses or anything. It came directly from the people. We did provide, if there was an inability for a person to do this, we were there to assist them with the process. All of the comments were tabulated and put on our website for everyone to see, and we incorporated those comments and that input into this 32-page strategic plan. So that's my report for today. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda item is F, discussion, overview, and possible recommendation regarding proposed new rules, Administrative Code, Chapter 130, through the House Bill 3078.
Good morning, board members. Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel for the Podiatry program. So today we're going to go through the comments for the proposed rules that were published in April. Hopefully at the end of this, we will make a recommendation to the commission to adopt the proposed rules with any changes if we make them per the comments. So I've handed you a chart that summarizes the comments. We received one comment from a person who did not understand how the proposed rules would affect them, and they wanted to know if they needed to do anything. So the purpose of our proposed rules were to finish the transition for House Bill 3078 of the Podiatry program from the Podiatric, State Board of Podiatric Medical Examiners to TDLR. The rules complete that consolidation effort. They streamline the rules and remove any redundancies. So as you guys remember, because it was a standalone board, there were lots of agency rules that we needed to take out because they already existed here in our Chapter 51 or our Chapter 60. There are no substantive changes to the scope or standard of care, and there's nothing that the commenter needs to do differently to comply with the proposed rules or changes. This comment was referred to the appropriate division for review, just in case the commenter needed something in addition. And no changes have been made because of this comment. We received another comment from somebody didn't understand how the changes would affect them again. Again, the statement's the same. It's just streamline to remove redundancies and transfer the rules into TDLR's format. We had one commenter who wanted to change the license term from 1 year to 2 year terms with a fee of $530. The commenter felt that this was commensurate with the majority of license costs for renewals set by the U.S. Medical Examiner's Office. While that is a great comment, that it is outside the scope of our current rule proposal, because the current rule proposal is to just bring the rules over. We're not making any substantive changes, so this one was referred to a the appropriate division for review and potentially discussion for a potential future rulemaking if needed. We received 2 comments from Texas Medical Association and the Texas Orthopedic Association. You received a late comment, I believe, last Friday. The Texas Medical Association and Texas Orthopedic Association submitted comment on the use of the terms podiatric physician, foot surgeon, and podiatric surgeon, stating that it would confuse, the continued use would confuse the public and that it is not authorized by statute, the use of those terms. Again, the department response to that would be that the purpose of these rules are to consolidate the podiatry program from the Texas State Board of Podiatric Medical Examiners to TDLR. They continue the consolidation effort, streamlining the rules, removing any redundancies, and there are no substantive changes to scope or standard of care. These terms, specifically podiatric physician, foot surgeon, and podiatric surgeon, have been proposed, adopted, and used by the Texas State Board of Podiatric Medical Examiners since the early 1990s. Looking specifically at the term podiatric physician, it was published and adopted previously by the state agency. Looking only at the state Secretary of State's office website, that just goes back to 2000. So 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11. And on 2 of those occasions, in 2001 and in 2006, both TMA and TOA provided comment, not about the use of these terms, but about the definition of foot, delegation of certain radiological procedures, and residency requirements. We understand that the law in Texas only allows MDs and DOs licensed by the medical board to use the term physician. However, federally physicians include podiatrists. And recently in Congress, I believe this past May, passed changes which for the treatment of podiatric clinical oversight standards and use the term podiatric surgeon, DPM. Currently, podiatrists must qualify that they are podiatric physicians, foot surgeons, or podiatric surgeon. Practitioners are prohibited from using the term physician or surgeon alone. Additionally, in the proposed rules, which are the original rules, there is the section that clarifies the need to limit the practitioner's professional designation by using a qualifier to reasonably inform the public of the distinction between a podiatrist and other medical practitioners. So again, any changes would be outside of the scope because this is just bringing the rules into alignment and removing any redundancies and streamlining. So no changes have been made to the proposed rules in response to this comment. And those are all the comments.
Any questions for Colleen?
No, but I do have one comment about paragraph 2, the last sentence. If you would read that for me.
No change has been made to the proposed rules in response to this
No
comment?
comments. Paragraph 2, no comments were received or concerns raised regarding the use of the term podiatric physician in all of those previous rule transitions.
Yes.
Just wanted to be sure that
Okay.
wasn't pointed out.
Okay.
Yeah, and just, well, any other comments? Just, there is a history, Dr. Wesson, that I'm sure they'll bring you up to speed on of old, never-ending litigation. And this is a constant thing that has been dealt with. It's always been a non-issue in the past, and it seems as though, at least in far as consideration of things, it's just something that seems to pop its head up from time to time. Just for some history on that. So I don't remember how long I've been on the board, but I can tell you it's been an issue since I've been on the board. 12 years or something. Okay, any other questions or concerns for Colleen? And I'll tell you, Colleen's really, she's very easy to work with. We are phone tag masters together. So either I'm gone, she's gone, whatever, but when we're on the phone, man, you can really knock out a lot because she does a ton of prep work. And so it's easy to work with Colleen, for sure. So thank you for all your work. Other than that, I'll take a motion as published in the register, the commission adopt those rules from our advisory board.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving forward. So that was F and G together. Colleen?
Nope, I will go on to G. G is slightly different. So G, again, Colleen Tran, Assistant General Counsel. This is agenda item G for the Chapter 100 rules. Again, House Bill 3078 included some provisions about the adoption proposal of rules by the board and the commission. This rule set, our Chapter 100 rules are for our health-related programs, so we needed to make sure that podiatry was, those rules were placed in here. They mirror similarly how the statute reads, and so the commission may not adopt new rules relating to scope of practice, health-related standard of care, or ethical practice unless the rule has been proposed by the advisory board. So they cannot do those without you. And then they shall either adopt the rule as proposed by the advisory board under subsection C, which we just went through, without any substantive changes. And if not, then they have to return the rule to the board. And then it also lays out some continuing education procedures for the podiatry program specifically. There were no comments made, so I don't suggest any changes. So.
Any other questions for Colleen regarding agenda item G about Chapter 100? Okay, so I'll take a motion that from the advisory board, recommend the commission adopt those rules as published. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you, Colleen. Moving forward, we already did letter H.
Did you have a clear first and second? First, Dr. Martin? Second?
Good, first.
Dr. Lunsford?
Lunsford is
Okay.
the peace sign, or he was second, one of the two. Probably the peace sign.
No, this is peace. It's two.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Agenda item H, there was nothing to add to that, if I'm correct. You want to add to H? Okay. Update from the enforcement work group, discussion of possible action to recommend approval of the criminal conviction guidelines for the podiatry program.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Ken Sharp. I'm one of the prosecutors with the Enforcement Division here at TDLR, and I work along with one other attorney specifically with criminal conviction cases, criminal history cases, to determine license eligibility. And I'm here this morning to present to you the proposed criminal conviction guidelines for the profession of podiatry. They were developed by a work group back in late March. That work group consisted of staff members and here at TDLR, and also, of course, some of you may remember members of the advisory board there who certainly provided some valuable insight and information that we needed. Now, Texas law requires that we have these criminal conviction guidelines. It does a couple of things. It gives the agency guidance, gives us guidance in determining whether to license a person, and it also advises the public about which criminal convictions may disqualify a person from holding a particular license. And in addition to those directly related offenses that are listed in the proposed guidelines, we also have some offenses that are described in Chapter 53 of the Occupations Code. And these are the more serious crimes that maybe aren't listed in the guidelines. They might be or they might not be, but things like murder and aggravated kidnapping, sexual offenses, and so forth. So those also provide the basis for revoking or denying a license. And then, of course, there are some offenses that are listed in Chapter 202 or described in Chapter 202 that require a suspension or revocation of a license. And and I think most of those things are included in here as well. And we want you to know that we don't just close the door on a license arbitrarily. We have a process that we have to go through. When we determine that someone should not be licensed, we send that person a letter notifying the person of our determination, and then also notifying the person they have the right to a hearing to contest that determination. That hearing is before an administrative law judge, an ALJ, and the ALJ, after hearing the evidence, comes to a conclusion, makes a recommendation to the commission, and then the commission makes the final decision. So we don't make the final decision unless we make a determination and then the person just accepts that determination. We don't do this in a vacuum. We look at a number of factors that we're required to look at by Chapter 53, things such as what was the nature and seriousness of the crime, how long ago was it since it was committed, what was the person's age at the time of the crime. We look at the person's entire criminal history before we make those decisions. And that's kind of a summary of the laws that apply when someone applies for a license or when we propose to revoke a license. Any questions on any of those things so far? Okay, then we can take a look at the proposed guidelines. I understand you have copies in your materials. At least I was given to understand that. And then also Chris is going to display those on the smart board there. And the first thing to notice, the first thing you may notice, is that these crimes are not specifically listed. They're described in broad general categories. And there's a good reason for that, is because there are so many different courts in the nation, and even in the state for that matter, and they all seem to describe the same offense by different terminology. So if we had to go by a list of precise terminology, something would slip through the cracks. So we use these broad general categories, and the things that you'll see in there are examples. They're not an exclusive list of things that fall under that category. So for example, in the first one there, if you look at it, the crimes against the person, the examples are homicide, kidnapping, and assault. And in that first category, the guidelines explain that podiatry licensees interact with patients and any other people who might be with them, caregivers, family members, and so forth, and they're going to be in close proximity with people. Now, I would imagine podiatry is like any other medical service, much like any other standard service that doesn't require a medical degree. There are going to be potentials for conflict. And if we have a person who has a violent predisposition, as shown by a criminal record, we really don't want to put that person in a position to have to resolve a conflict, because that person might react violently. And if you have any questions on any of these, please stop me and ask, and we can talk about those as we go along. The next one involves crime, or it consists of crimes that involve prohibited sexual conduct. And as with the previous category, podiatrists are going to be in contact with people. They're going to be in close proximity with them, certainly with the patients themselves. And they may be alone with patients, often when the patients are vulnerable, and a license would give a person with a nature to commit sexual crimes an opportunity to do that with some of those patients. There's a category of the most vulnerable people in our society, the children, the elderly, or persons with disabilities. And this next one, next guideline, seeks to protect those persons by ensuring that persons who apply for a license or who have had a license and are engaged in this type of behavior don't get the opportunity through this license to do that again. We move on next to the crimes against property, such as theft and burglary. And not only will licensees be in close proximity with patients and people who are with them, caregivers and so forth, but they may also at times have access to their personal property, either in a clinic room, examination room, or a hospital room. They may have access to wallets or purses or anything like that. Anyone who has a predisposition to steal stuff should not have a license and be given an opportunity to have access to other people's personal property. So that's the reason for this guideline. And then the next one, along the same lines, we're dealing with crimes that involve fraud or deceptive trade practices. And people who have a history of committing those types of crimes would have an opportunity to repeat those crimes in this profession, because they're going to be involved in billing, whether it be the individuals themselves or insurance companies, other third-party payers like the government. So it's important to exclude people who cannot be trusted to perform these functions honestly. And then let's look at the next two categories, the ones that involve the illegal possession or distribution of drugs, and then the guideline of a crime of being under the influence of drugs or alcohol. This profession would give doctors an opportunity to engage in the illegal or improper dispensing of drugs, and the profession, of course, wants to ensure that the licensees are not impaired when diagnosing and treating patients. And then also there's Chapter 202 of the Occupations Code, the Podiatry statutes, that require revocation of a license when there are convictions that involve violations of the Controlled Substances Act or the Texas Dangerous Drugs Act. So we have those guidelines. And then, of course, as I said before, the ones being under the influence of alcohol or dangerous drugs. The last four categories seem self-explanatory, at least to me, but if you have any questions, we can certainly talk about them. These ones, you know, everybody should behave and follow these kind of guidelines, but particularly in this profession, as you can see from the reasons that are listed, these are important, and I think as they would be for any medical profession. Well, those are the guideline crimes the work group identified as directly related to the profession of podiatry. Do you have any questions on any of those? I know we went through them kind of quickly, but they're pretty easy to understand. And they also, as you'll notice, they list the reasons, which is required by statute, that TDLR and the commission and, of course, the profession finds that these are particularly important to the profession and that people entering or remaining in the profession maybe shouldn't if they have convictions for these type of crimes. Well, I want to thank you for your attention to this. I certainly want to thank those board members who participated and helped us out with this, because that was just invaluable. We couldn't have done it without them. And we would ask that you vote to recommend to the commission that they adopt these guidelines for the profession of podiatry. And then I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any questions?
How do these mirror other medical professions in the state?
As far as the ones that we regulate, I can tell you they're probably, this is probably stricter than any other of the health professions that we regulate. I don't know about MDs or ODs or veterinarians or any of those. Maybe that's not a good to lump the veterinarians in with you folks, but you get the idea. I don't know how the guidelines for those licensees would work. We looked at these and we looked at the profession and we depended on the advice of the board members who were on that work group and hammered these out, and this is what we came up with. So you're distinctive and you have a distinctive set of guidelines. I guess that's the long and short of it.
Thank you.
So moved. No, we worked on that.
Okay, you did it before.
You bet.
Yeah, like the old penalty matrix and how we got there. Yeah, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. Thank you for doing all that.
Thank you.
So the motion you were about to make, Dr. Lunsford, was what?
To accept, yes. For the commission
Recommend the
to accept
commission adopt the
adoption,
rules. Okay. So that's a motion, a second.
Second.
Second, Dr. Martin. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Moving forward. That was agenda item H. Any recommendations for agenda items for the next board meeting? No? Okay. As far as setting now a date, time, and location for the next board meeting, we're not going to do that today because we don't have anything hanging over our head that we need to get done. Plus, I know there are some meetings with some other things that I'm sure will be future agenda meetings that are coming up maybe late August, early September, which means we'll have more help. It sounds like as people are lucky enough to retire and Heather gets to move up. So we'll leave that up and we'll set that up with Christine. But I think we'd probably anticipate something after the first of the year, after bowl season, hopefully. After football bowl season. World Cup's over, we don't have to pretend about soccer anymore. It's Texas, it's football. It is what it is. Okay, so other than that, we'll be in adjournment at 10:41.